What's going on, world?
Hey, everybody.
It's your guy, TJ.
And your girl, Dani.
And we're back with another episode of Lovers Quarrel.
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang?
Sure, why not?
I mean, listen, why not? How you been?
I've been good, you know. I've been out here
glowing up.
living my best life.
Getting some tans and stuff.
I have
So let me tell you guys why
bit.
we didn't have an episode last week. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
Go ahead, you got it.
You know, my wife decided that she wanted to go away.
I decided, like I said the day before, like, you know what? I'm just going to fly to King.
Not the day before, but like the week before. She was like, listen, I got a trip. I'm going out of town.
Lies and fallacies.
Where are you going? She said, I'm going to Cabo with my line sisters. Crazy. I'm like, all right, cool. We supposed to record. That didn't work because she had to get
ready.
all glammed up for her trip.
You sound like a hater.
No, I sound like honest. Like, you know what I mean? I seen a woman I've never seen before walk through the door because she was getting glammed up for her line sisters.
Really?
Shout out to them. Anyway, so we tried to do it over the phone. The audio was terrible.
Trash.
Terrible. So I said, you know what? No episode. We're going to come back stronger, better. You know.
All that good stuff.
All that good stuff. So welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know that you can't do this without me. It's good to know.
I mean, I could have.
But you didn't.
I mean, I didn't. Out of respect for you. I could have. I could have found somebody else.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're glad to be back. And I had a great time with my line sister. Shout out to Spring 07. We took Cabo, and we had a great time.
That's so
cute. Yeah, it is really cute.
Very cute.
Thank you. We cute. That's why. So, don't play yourself.
Keep going.
We get better with time.
Yeah, not one. Anyway.
Okay, we're not going to go on line siblings right now. So, anyway, how are you, sir?
You know how I do, man. I'm cooling.
All right.
Living my best life.
All right, we're going to jump right in. Well, we have a guest.
Okay.
Special guest. I know
You're doing better.
Shush.
You're doing better.
Last time we were, our episode was the story of us. So you guys got the history, the origin story.
And I think I'm up on that. I think Team TJ wins.
You know what? When I listened to the episode, and this is what I think it is that I give you credit for being committed to your lies. So
committed to what lies?
Because you say them so emphatically that people believe them. You're kind of like Donald Trump, which is like
what?
You say them.
Dude, that is so erroneous.
You say them.
That is such...
because you're loud. Just because you're the loudest person in the room doesn't always make you right. And I feel like some of our listeners, mainly the men, found that, you were louder. Therefore, you were more correct.
Was I louder, though? I didn't feel like I was louder. I feel like I was just being myself, and people were able to see the honest.
See, I think... I wish, honestly...
You sent your representative.
I wish we had recorded, video of it, because my face would have told a lot more of the story of, you know how, when somebody's lying to you, you'd be like, all right. And so that... But then, when you don't see the face to go...
What did I lie about?
The fact that, first of all, you lied about me... chasing you.
You did chase me.
I didn't chase you.
You called me first. You wanted me first.
That's not a chase.
He chased it.
He requested that I call him because he wanted to talk to me.
No, see, I did not request that you called me.
You asked Will to put you on.
Will, put me on.
So who?
So
by definition, who wants who then?
You could have easily said, okay, well, tell him to call me. Here's my number. You didn't do that.
I was polite. That's all.
You asked for my number. Okay.
I didn't ask for your number. It was given to me. So we're not gonna digress.
Okay.
Because we're already getting off track. Go ahead. Point is that
we have a guest.
We have a guest.
Yes, there you go.
We can round to this thing later.
This is crazy to me.
Because obviously that's needed.
It is.
And round 2 is absolutely needed.
Absolutely. So if you hear that voice, you have Kayla. Oh wait, I don't want to say your last name wrong. So it's Tullis. Close. Sorry, Kayla Tullis, and she is our guest for today. We're gonna get into Kayla's story, her background, and why she's here today speaking with us a little later in the show. But we want to at least put a name to the voice. So welcome, Kayla.
Thank you.
Of course. But with that being said, it's now time for some elevator talk. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I need you to what are sound effects at?
It's coming.
I'm not. So I need you to go into sound effects first, and then you can go ahead and do what you do.
Going down.
Okay, that means you starting. Go ahead.
So y'all, it's the time of year that a lot of people dread, myself especially. We're nearing the end of summer. I go to the store, like I told you a couple weeks ago, and I see all the back to school stuff. And the teacher in me just starts to like sweat and itch and just, but just like, I just feel it. It's like, it just is like a feeling. Like you know that before you think about it, it's going to be fall, then it's going to be like Halloween, and then it's going to be Christmas, and then New Year's, and then you're going to start back all over again. And even though the seasons are pretty evenly split, but like summertime, and I guess I'm going to talk about this I've been talking about it all summer, but summertime is kind of like where I come alive. So I just got that twinge in my spirit that lets me know we're wrapping things up. But, it is what it is. So not being a total Debbie Downer, but I feel it in the air. I can feel it in the air. Like that.
Oh, that sounded terrible.
That's okay.
You couldn't even get the air?
Because I was trying to sound breathy.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. You had no... Anyway, go ahead.
You're so mean.
See, that's why people believe you. That's why people were Team Dani. Because you sent your representative. I didn't say anything mean.
You said that was terrible.
It was terrible. That's being honest.
That's okay. What are we doing for you, sir?
I'm going up.
Going up?
There you go. We didn't get to talk about it last week because somebody was living their best life.
I'm done.
LeBron James, I Promise School. Listen, you got to talk
so
about
dope.
it.
So dope. So dope.
I mean, he was already a Hall of Fame player. He was already going to be in the books as a Hall of Fame player. But it's just solidified it.
He is the GOAT.
So I just wanted to talk about that, I think it's just super dope. And there's people out there who's like, there's other people who had schools. I think he's the only one who had a public school. Everyone else had charter schools.
Well, I'm not sure if his is. I don't know if his
is a public school.
It's a part of the Akron public school system. But charter schools are part of like the school system.
Technically,
are they technically a part of the school system?
Yeah, I get that. I'm not taking it away, but I'm saying he created a public school, and the other people created charter schools. I'm pretty sure it's probably different regulations and different ways to do it.
There are definitely differences.
And I mean, listen.
I mean, it's been years in the making.
Yes.
Like years. If it's a public school.
Free tuition, free uniforms, free bicycle and helmets for the kids because he had to ride a bike to school. Free transportation within 2 miles, free food, free breakfast, lunch, and snacks, food pantry for families, GEDs and job placement services for parents. That's dope.
That's amazing.
He's thinking about
the community.
He's literally changing the narrative. He's doing a pipeline for success.
And what I would say this, like when it was coming out and everything like that, as a teacher, I was a little skeptical only because, people, like you said, people were like, oh, celebrities have done this in the past, whatever. Yeah, celebrities have, and some have been great, and some have been like more like I'm slapping my name on it, and then that's it. But like this shows that there was a lot of thought put into it because in order to reach a child, you do have to it needs to be the entire community. It needs to be kind of 360 reaching them. So that means in school and at home. So the fact that they have those services for parents is amazing.
I mean, listen, I think that's the biggest thing. Because if you're doing the children and the parents, it's more buy-in, I feel like.
It is.
And then lastly, guaranteed tuition to the University of Akron for every student who graduates. So you can go to school
for free. Dope.
Unless you picky, I don't want to go to Akron. But
shoot, if you're
paying, I'll be there.
So I applaud LeBron. I think it's the dopest thing ever. I think more of our athletes need to do this. If every athlete just does it, if we can get the same thing for public schools throughout every state, I mean, you can see change. So.
Absolutely. And, our obligatory fuck you to Donald Trump for coming at him for any reason, quite honestly. But anyway, we can move on from that. But, Kayla, do you have any elevator talk that you would like to chime in on, or?
No.
Okay.
I'm
That's
blinking.
Not a problem. That is not a problem. So, with that being said, it's now time for our relationship tip of the week. And this week's relationship tip is I'm going to give you a phrase, but then I'm going to elaborate on it. So the tip of the week is take turns in the middle seat. And by the middle seat, I mean, think about it. When you're on a plane, when you're in a car, in the back seat of a car, the least desired seat is always the middle one, right? Because you're stuck between people. It's, either you're getting blasted with the heat or the air. It's just, no windows, no nothing, no aisle, no space. And I say that to say because in relationships sometimes there are the ugly, the unfun, the mundane, the frustrating, the annoying things that have to get done on a regular basis. But sometimes whether or not we realize it, one person in that relationship ends up being the one kind of doing that, kind of taking the middle seat on that. And with that being said, this man tried to raise his hand like he's... This is my segment. Don't interrupt.
I wasn't interrupting. I was agreeing.
You don't... Okay.
Go ahead.
To be continued. So, with that being said, when in a relationship, take turns. Like, it's really easy for somebody to kind of like, if it makes, even sometimes if it makes more logical sense, like, oh, you're the one that's home during this time, or you're the one that passes this on the way home, or you're the one who is better at it, or whatever. It doesn't, just because sometimes even if you're better at it, doesn't mean you enjoy doing it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so when in a relationship, sometimes try to be mindful of that and take turns with it, saying like, hey, relieve that person of that monotonous, unfun, whatever task it is, or whatever that moment is, relieve that your partner of that from time to time in order to A, show that you care, and B, to, add to the balance that is a relationship, because it is, and there needs to be balance at times, and sometimes the balance is not always with the great stuff, and because if it was fun, then everybody would do it, everybody would take turns with it, but it's the stuff that people don't want to volunteer for that you honestly should, because otherwise the person in the middle seat becomes miserable sometimes. And with that being said, that is your relationship tip of the week. Did you like my analogy with it?
Sure.
I'm done with you.
I liked it.
Thank you, Kayla.
You're welcome.
I just can't win.
Thank you. Because sure, we already talked about that. Sure is a verbal shrug.
Oh, gosh.
That's TJ's verbal shrug.
It's not. It's my acceptance.
When I say sometimes,
Sure.
Verbal shrug.
No. The verbal shrug, depending on the tone. Like, sure. That's like, yeah.
Unfortunately, you have monopolized that word and turned it into a verbal.
It's my favorite word in the whole entire world.
When it comes
when
out
I
of your
die,
mouth,
I want them to put sure on my tombstone.
I can arrange that.
That's cheap.
It is. Sure. 4 letters. Do you want a period?
I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
Sure.
Because that's a decision.
It is.
It
is.
Yeah.
Very much so. Take turns in the middle seat. I think it's appropriate, being that we're doing a lot of traveling lately.
Who's got the middle seat?
I always at the middle seat. I'm always in the middle seat.
He is so full of shit.
I'm always in the middle.
I'm an aisle person.
I used to be an aisle person, but now the middle seat on planes though actually has more leg room than the aisle, so that I can appreciate.
Wow.
Yeah,
and then I can do the window. Excuse me. I can do the window seat now too. I used to be terrified of it when I was a kid because my dad had me watch The Twilight Zone before my first flight ever, and it was it was the Twilight Zone one. Do you ever watch that? Where it was like the little creature.
Seen like ish.
Yeah. So there's like the one where like the creature was on the wing, like tearing up the wing, but like only the one man in the window seat could see it. And
so you thought you was gonna be the one person.
So what? Like I didn't want to sit on the window seat because I didn't want to look out the window and see like a gremlin on the wing tearing up the stuff. It freaked me out. I was like 8, so cut me some slack.
I have a friend from Towson. You seen Bridesmaids when she's like really, and the chick is she's churning butter.
Yeah.
Every time my friend goes on a flight, she always gets the window seat and takes a picture and draws the stick figure churning butter. And she was like, me and my girl back at it again.
Oh my god, I love that movie. She's like, somebody's ready to party.
That was like literally the best scene.
Exactly.
It was right there.
Help me, I'm poor. You don't remember that?
I don't.
Yes, because she was trying to get into first class.
Exactly. she's the only person I've seen make like a Nazi, like a Hitler reference that was actually pretty funny.
and get away with it.
Yeah. You need to rewatch Bridesmaids.
Sure.
Verbal shrug. Thank you. Did you hear it? You heard the shrug? Thank you. All right. So we're going to move right along from our relationship tip of the week. I ride the middle seat a lot in this household.
That's crazy to me.
But we're going to move on.
That's going to have to be another episode or something, because I definitely ride a middle seat. I think it depends on what the situation is.
I think that's fair.
Ooh.
Listen, y'all. She agreed with me. I got to take my wins when I get my wins. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get it.
All right. So, as you've heard, this voice, again, this is Kayla. She is 23. So young. So much life ahead of you.
Especially when you're so old.
Okay, moving on.
Damn, you have to do that too.
Exactly. Yeah. See what I mean?
Listen, I got myself a cougar. I knew what I was doing.
I'm 8 months older than you.
She's a year. That's why she doesn't do math anymore. She don't know how to round.
Not round.
She don't know how to round up. Anything over 5 is a what? It's a whole. So
a Towson alum, Kayla is. Go Tigers.
Shout out to you.
Also a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. So got another fellow Greek on here. And well, I'll say this. What makes Kayla unique today is that Kayla is, and correct me if I typed it, but I want to make sure I'm saying I have it all correct, is gender non-conforming trans masculine. Correct. So if you're living under a rock, you may not know that, gender is more of a spectrum than it is a cut and dry binary thing. Mm-hmm. So you would also go by non-binary. Would you accept that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so as I was saying, so if you were living under a rock, you know that there's fluidity to gender, there's fluidity to sexuality, and as always, TJ and I try to do our very best to bring you guys people who have perspectives that are different from our own when it comes to relationships and dating. And since TJ and I are not gender non-conforming trans masculine, we brought Kayla on to talk about Kayla's experience and how it plays into relationships and dating, growing up, all that stuff. And you might hear us kind of move through different pronouns because Kayla uses pronouns such as she, her, him, and he. Did I miss one? Did I miss any? She, her, him, and he. So that is also a thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But most importantly, thank you for being on the show.
Of course.
So we're going to just jump right on in it. You ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
We ready.
Exactly. So let me take you back. Let's go back to the beginning, right? Okay. So we're little Kayla, right? Mm-hmm. We got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So how old were you when you realized that I wrote that you were non-binary, but of course I'm assuming there wasn't necessarily that term didn't pop into your head at that age. But how are you when you realized, like, hey, I'm not falling under these two kind of under this umbrella that life is kind of placed upon me? So what was that like? Yeah,
that probably didn't actually come up until college. Okay. In high school, my mom would probably know better than me. I think I came out my sophomore year. Mm-hmm. And I came out as gay. Well, first bisexual and then gay. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole different thing. I actually regret coming out as bisexual first because a lot of times it's used as a stepping stone. Yeah. Even though bisexuality is a very valid sexual orientation. So I kind of, in that sense, kind of regret a little bit. And I don't say regret easily as using that as a stepping stone. But I came out. Mom took it fine. My mom's a social worker. Dad took a little bit, but he always has to take time, but he always comes through in the end. Cool. Like always. And even if he has some, because both me and my brother are gay. Oh. Well, because I still use gay. Okay. That's still, so both me and my brother are gay. And so, like, I know that could be a lot. That's not what you expect. And so, but he's taken it and he's great. But, so that happened. And then I went to Towson, and at my high school was me, my best friend, and one other person were the only out people. And that's all I knew. I didn't really know about trans people or that non-binary, gender non-conforming was even a thing. And then I got to Towson, and one thing I can say about Towson is Towson has everybody.
Sure does.
Towson has everybody, and so I joined this group called In the Life, which is separate from the QSU, which is QSU Union. In the Life was mainly for people of color in the LGBT community because at a point at Towson, the people of color felt left out, so we created our own group.
No shock there.
No, yeah. So that's actually probably where a lot of my family was in college and still is. And so just kind of seeing people and how they navigate. I always knew I started dressing more masculine when I came out. That was probably, if my parents listen to this, they're not gonna like it, but that was probably the hardest part for them, was me dressing more masculine. It wasn't necessarily me coming out as gay. I think it was me dressing more masculine. Yeah, my mom, she just stopped trying to get me into women's clothes.
Wow.
But my mom's amazing. Yeah. My mom is absolutely amazing. Don't get me wrong. But yeah. And I still, it just all depends on and what you're comfortable in. And it's just the binary structure that we're socialized to kind of just sucks. But yeah, so then I went through college, still probably, I didn't still identify as gender non-conforming yet. I graduated, and my previous partner is probably the person who helped me understand what being gender non-conforming is, or what just being non-binary is. She was older than me. She was 29. She was 27 when we met. Okay. And I was 21. Okay. And so she helped me understand and accept myself. Okay. Because I always knew I didn't fit in whatever society was trying to tell me. I got misgendered so many times. It was a norm. I've gotten managers called on me. I've gotten people running in the bathroom after me, trying to tell me I'm in the wrong bathroom. Oh, wow. A lot. My parents, I still remember this day, we were like getting a Christmas tree from Home Depot because we were cheating that year. And the guy was like, yeah, I'm sure your sons can help you put it up. And luckily my mom is very good at knowing when to fight her battles. And so she just was like, okay, we just kept it. Yeah, we kept it let pushing. It go, keep it pushing. So I'm a person. If I'm not going to see you again, I'm probably not going to correct you, because why am I going to waste my time and my energy on someone I'm never going to see again? Yeah. But yeah, and then so gender nonconforming for probably about the past 2.5 years. Okay. And then probably about a year ago is when I really hit a roadblock of trying to figure out who I was, and that's when I really started to see trans people on social media. And I realized there was like this jealousy coming over me of seeing these people, and I was like, well, is it because they're comfortable with themselves? Is it because I identify with them? I couldn't really understand what was happening. And so I kind of just kept it to myself, didn't really tell anybody. And then I went to like a really severe depression, and my anxiety started to really flare up. And so I went to a therapist, and I really started to talk it out and kind of learn that I wanted to present more masculine. At first, I was really against it for myself because I wasn't sure if that was me trying to conform to what society was trying to tell me I look like. Okay. Because again, being misgendered a lot, you're like, it'd just be easier if that's just how I presented. And I've never been that person, so that's why I think I kind of was like really resistant at times. And then so there's a term that's used, which some trans people like, some trans people don't like, is dysphoria. Okay. And so then I really started to get to a point where I was looking in the, like when you're just out and you think you see yourself, you just think you know how you see yourself. And then you look in the mirror and it's somebody different and it's not who you think it is. Yeah. I had a nightmare at one point. It was actually pretty recently of like, I had my first shot and it was completely like definitely a dream. Had my first shot, all the changes Physical changes happened, and then like for some reason I stopped taking my shots, and then like all went away, and like I woke up in like an anxiety attack, and so like it was like things like that. Yeah, like took the day off, went and saw my mom, and like it was like that was like the real wake up moment for me when that happened. And so yeah, it's just, and also rejection is a big thing. I got rejected. One of my previous partners, I came out. To a certain extent, I didn't come out. I was just like, something doesn't feel right. I don't know what's happening, but I want to, look into options. And
that didn't go well.
They turned it into about themselves and was like, I now have to mourn the person that I fell in love with, and asking me all these questions that I didn't know, really overwhelming me when I was literally just like giving like a little feel like, hey, just not sure how I feel. Just want to know this is where I am. Literally don't have any answers. And it was pretty bad, pretty traumatic. And I kind of went back in the closet for about a year, maybe a year and a half.
Wow. That's so much in such a short window of time.
Yeah.
And not to cut you off, because I know, and
I'm sure I'll go into
it's more, okay because it's a whole lot to unpack. It is all connected. It's a whole lot to unpack, and and I'm glad that you're just so open and forward with it, because you're kind of making those connections between those things, between realizing it within yourself, how your family accepts it, your time in college, dating, relationships, because that's what we're here to talk about. So one thing that I always kind of, when I think of, because TJ and I, so we kind of pride, I feel like we pride ourselves on like where we're from. We grew up in New York, so being from New York City, we came across every pretty much walk of life, and as far as like gender on the spectrum, and it gave us a greater appreciation and understanding and compassion for people, because when you just in what you were saying just now, I was thinking about it, and I was just like, damn, like what would I do if I felt like I looked in the mirror and like I couldn't, what I saw within my head and what I saw in the mirror didn't sync up. And and then also too, it's just like it's a blessing in some ways to be able to say like, you know what, I feel like a woman, I look like a woman, I am a woman, and then just kind of going about my day.
You want to put a word to it, it's called cis privilege.
Okay. There. So my cis privilege is like recognizing that and saying like, hey, like I don't have to, just like white privilege, I don't even have to think about it.
Exactly.
Because it is what it is. It all jives. And it's fine.
Yeah.
And to think about like, damn, how frustrating it is to have to go through these kind of emotions and kind of have to sort and wade through these different like identifications and labels and try to like figure out where you go, where you fit into that. And it must be so, I mean, I'm imagining it's still like a work in progress in a lot of ways.
For sure.
But I recognize like, damn, like, I didn't even really think about that. Like, imagine if I had, on top of everything else going on in my life, like I got bills to pay, I got a job, I got this, I got a dog, all the regular people stuff. Then you have to add this on top of it. Yeah. So, but what it brings me back to asking you though was, so you actually kind of touched on it. So when you got to the point of like the trans portion, like I don't want to say portion, but like identifying, looking on social media. So that was kind of like a big, I guess, introduction for you.
For sure.
That
was a lot of contemplation.
What about? Yeah, like what do you know what the like defining moment was for you when you were like, you know what, this is more than just like me admiring or jealousy. This is like, no, maybe like I also am a part of this community.
Yeah. A lot of it was the community. There's a guy out there, and I know he will have no problem with me saying who he is. His name's Charles Xavier. He's a trans guy. And he's like building his brand now. He's public speaker, all that. And he's and I met him pre-T. Okay. And just watching him go through what he was going through, and I was like, I don't know, just like watching him, it was kind of like I was relating.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of my questioning really came from, because he was close to me. We both interacted at the GLCCB, which is the Gay and Lesbian Community Center of Baltimore, which I'm also on the board of directors for now. But so we crossed paths a lot. And so he was kind of a point of helping me figure it out, and still is. And I wouldn't even say there's like a defining point. I think I always knew. I think I just needed to allow myself to be me.
Maybe like a push, maybe.
Yeah, like I started off with one friend, kind of just feeling, because a lot of just not saying anything was rejection. Because how bad the rejection is the first time of telling a significant other, and that not really going well. That was really hard, and so I kind of started to put feelers out of like, hey, this is how I feel. I don't know if I want to go on hormones. I don't know what I want to do, and so a lot of it was just continuous work, going to therapy.
We are proponents of that on
and
this show.
My therapist is freaking amazing. And yeah, I think I literally remember, I don't remember what it was. And I think it actually may have been after that nightmare. My next therapy appointment, I walked in and I said, I need to do this.
Okay.
And she completely supported me. She supported me from the beginning of saying, if this is what you want to do, then we're going to make sure this happens. But I think, I just came in and I was like, this is what I need to do.
So your subconscious is kind of like, Kayla.
Yeah, because I'm very calculated in my decisions.
So with that, how did you, so when you had to tell your family, like, listen, this is what I'm doing now, how was that reaction?
So I pretty much just dropped bombs. My dad,
Funkmaster Flex in here.
My dad, one of his offices is around the corner from me, and we just met up. I work at Power Plant Live.
Okay.
We work in one of the buildings inside of Power Plant Live, and we were standing at the fountain, because everybody knows the fountain if you've been to Power Plant Live, and we're just talking, and I just dropped the bomb out of nowhere, and I don't remember how I said it, but he was like, we were both being like really vulnerable with each other, and it's really random, and I was just like, I think I want to start testosterone, and I'm going to therapy too. And I think I want tops. Like, kind of just started I kind of feel bad because I just like literally just dropped him.
Like
but
verbal
diarrhea. He handled it like a champ, though. He handled it like a champ. He was just like, and I think my dad having me and my brother around has, I wouldn't say made him more tolerable, but we have made him more aware of the world. Yeah. So now that I'm saying this, he's like, oh, yeah, I know what that is. Like, it's just, yeah. So he sent me a text after I saw him, and he was like, I may not understand, but whatever makes you happy, I support you.
That's amazing.
And so, and my mom, that's literally it. Like, I don't even necessarily, you don't need to understand, because you're not going to understand, actually, at the end of the day. But I just need your support, because at the end of the day, you're not going to understand what I'm going through in my viewpoint. You're not going to understand why. You're just not. And so as long as you support me and you're here, that's literally all that matters. And my mom was she was fine, but her trying to like help me through it, I still remember I was saying something and she was like, well, I don't think that's what it is. I was like, no, Mom, I think it is what it is. She was like, well, okay, if that's what you say. And I was like, yeah, like my mom, there was never fear of rejection with my mom. That was never gonna.
Your brother?
My brother goes to Micah. He's literally the most liberal person you will ever meet. Like, I think we were in a car ride, and I said something to him. He was like, oh, okay.
He was like, turn the volume up.
Yeah, like that's literally, like, that's the conversation. He's just like, okay, like, it doesn't phase him. It doesn't phase him at all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's so, it's such a good feeling and thing to hear, because we obviously know that everybody's story is not like that.
Absolutely.
And that and like, and it just goes to show and prove to, like, the importance of family supporting their children, because you are sitting here across from us telling us about all the, internal turmoil that you've already gone through on your own. And that's without the people that you care about the most heaping it on.
Yeah.
And then you have people who are in the same boat as you, but then also don't have the support or get a hard time. So I think that it's it's a blessing. It's really, really, disheartening when I see and I hear about families who don't do that. Because, what I always go back to with anything that's like LGBTQ is if it really was a choice, why would anybody choose it? Because like, this is not the world doesn't see it.
They're not nice to us.
Exactly. So it's just like, if I have an option, if I'm like, hey, am I gonna go with this? Let's say go left or go right. Like, why would I go like the road less traveled and like put myself through all of that if it was so much of a choice?
And that was why it took me a while to even say anything, was because a lot of it was I didn't feel like explaining it because I couldn't necessarily explain it myself. And nowadays, me saying I can't explain it to you means you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're feeling. And so the fact that I couldn't put necessarily in words, what was happening with me made me just be like, you know what, since I can't explain, I don't even want to put the burden on myself of telling other people. But I had another conversation with my dad he was asking questions, and I was like, you know what, because I hate saying I don't know. I literally hate it. I will walk around the entire question, and my friends check me so many times. But I told my dad, I was like, I don't have answers to your questions, but when I feel like I do, I'll come back to you and we can have this conversation. Because it's going to be literally a lifelong process for me of everybody trying to figure out who they are. And so definitely it's kind of like starting over at 23 to a certain extent.
Oof.
That's another misconception of people being like, you're erasing the person you were.
Yeah, no, it's like,
nah, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Now, the one scary thing is, though, like, the person you see here, even though I already have some changes of being on testosterone, the person you see here will never be in the world again, physically.
Yeah.
But, like, who I am as a person and, soul, mind, heart, all that stuff is still the same. That's not going to change. But it doesn't, like, scare me, but it's still, like, it is a little sad. I get to mourn that, of who I am as who people have seen me previously physically is no longer going to be here. There's permanent changes.
Got it.
Now, you said that there's been changes already. What changes have you experienced?
My voice is for sure getting deeper.
Okay.
Yeah. Little bit of facial hair coming in already.
I was just about to say, I was like, I see the hint of a 5 o'clock shadow right now.
A little bit of facial hair already coming in. Yeah, it works. It works a little quick. I've had.
How long have you been on testosterone?
Since June 23rd.
June 20. Oh, okay, so this. Oh.
I got back from Cuba June 22nd.
And you were like,
on
it. Let's go.
Yeah, I didn't want to wait. I got to the point where I couldn't wait anymore. Okay. Yeah, so
I seen you
bi-weekly.
I seen a video of you
doing. Yeah. I went live last week doing my shot because I had a lot of people just ask questions. Also, I just know a lot of people are curious because I've always been an open book regardless, and so I actually hate public speaking, even though I was like MPHC president and like I put myself in like board of directors. I put myself in all these public speaking roles, but I hate public speaking. But I always, like, just like I was saying, like, Charles was a person for me to look to. I want to make sure that people also, like, just being visible. Because right now in the trans community, being visible is really, really important because there are just a lot of mainly, trans youth and just, there's even people transitioning. I follow people who transition at 59.
Wow.
Like 60, and just showing people that it's okay and also that you have a community. Like, say your family doesn't accept you.
Yeah.
You have, like, I just bought a house that is big, and for that I bought it for a reason. For friends or family, whoever need a place, I always have a place for
That's
everybody.
Amazing.
So,
and it's important too, I think, because it's just like information and is so crucial to this because,
for sure,
like you said, like, for people who don't know, because even though as much as I like to think of myself as someone who is knowledgeable, I don't know everything.
Right.
But the best way to, and also too, like, on the kind of tamer side of it, it's just like, you don't want to be rude. You don't want to seem like you're, I guess kind of like how white people don't want to say something crazy out of pocket to a person of color. It's just like a cis person, as a cis person, I don't want to say something that would be offensive to you or to someone else because, and it's solely, out of just ignorance, like kind of like I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, you know, and that's like before we even started, I'm like, okay, well, what pronouns? You know, I know pronouns are a thing, so I'm like, let me ask you.
And that's how to really, because I know a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to ask because trans people are defensive and they get defensive really quickly. And it's like, well, maybe let's check yourself, figure out how you're coming to them. I was like, but also I always tell people to kind of give a disclaimer, hey, I don't know much and I have questions. I may be wrong. Just let me know if it's an inappropriate question, you know, like just be upfront, and you kind of have to like be vulnerable with that person and say you don't know. And then the person will more than likely, I have not seen it not work. Like people would open up, and if they don't want to talk about it, they'll tell you they don't want to talk about it, and you just be polite and move on to the next thing. But you have to make sure you're telling somebody that you're interested, because every day that trans people are out in the community, we face having to defend ourselves every second. Like I had a friend who was talking to me. She's gonna laugh because it was very, very, very recent, and she was kind of checking me, telling me I needed to get my life together. And I was getting really, and she had some questions, and I was getting really, really defensive. And she had to stop and be like, "I'm here to support you. I'm not trying to criticize you.
Yeah.
I'm not." She's like, "I'm just asking you questions to find out where you are." And I had never really had somebody ask me questions to actually care for the answer about me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
Like my mom, my dad, cool, fine, you know, they've been doing that for 23 years, but like just like people in general. And so I had to check myself in that moment. And so like when it comes to friends, family, you just have to make sure, you have to realize that like you always have a guard up, just like going out as a person of color. You always have your guard up. Yeah. And so, but being trans is kind of a second guard that also goes up, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like going into the bathroom is a thing. I don't know. Do I go in the men or do I go in the women's? Because I could get yelled at for going in the men's for how I look now, and I could get yelled at for going in the women's bathroom.
From how, yeah.
So, you know, it's like, even though guys really don't say nothing, so a lot of times I end up going because they just keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, I understand, and I think yeah, women are a little different, and I think that's important, that it, you know, like just basically let people ask those questions, and that, you know, and also that you, like you touched on it, like that intersectionality of like, okay, I am trans, I'm a person of color, like it's a lot of armor that you got to put on when you go out in the world. And so it's important that you keep it on, because the world is an ugly place, but that also too, like you said, when people are trying to really genuinely get an understanding, that you sometimes disarm yourself a little bit, because information is one of the main ways that we make progress and move forward, is because you have the conversations, because there's going to be things that I know about that you don't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I think that was why I asked Kayla to come on.
Absolutely.
Just because I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like transparency is the key. I had my friend Antonio on, and since I've known him, he was a straight male, and then he came out as gay. Okay. And when he came out as gay, he came out like in a big way. They did it because he used to be a football player. Okay. So they did a full page article on him. And when I seen it, I was like, congrats.
Don't do a bit.
Yeah. When I seen it, I was just like, congrats. Like, I've never had a problem with anybody.
Right.
But I just know how important it is just to be happy, to be yourself.
Yeah.
But having him on and his boyfriend on, I feel like I learned something. And having you on, I feel like I'm gonna learn more. Yeah. And hopefully others are able to learn from this. Others can listen to you and be like, you know, I identify with this. Right. I understand it, you know? Yeah. So,
or if they've never been comfortable having the conversation, or they didn't know anybody to have the conversation with, now they can be like, oh, okay, well then, like, that kind of like clears it a little bit up, you know, for me. Or maybe like, okay, now I know this, but now I have questions about that, you know? Because, I mean, some people don't. Yeah. And then even doing your Googles, sometimes, you know, that's a lot of misinformation out there too.
Google's a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Be careful.
Yes.
Because one thing people always would do, like, people ask information, they'd be like, well, you know, Google's a thing. And I'd be like, Google's a thing also with misinformation. So let's be careful. Let's not completely make them go to Google. Let's vet some sources.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So another question for you, Kayla. For in the spirit of information, how would you to explain to our listeners, like, how would you best explain, like, I guess it's twofold. The gender, okay. Like the gender spectrum, like, because we keep using the term, like, it's a spectrum, you know. Right. But then also specifically to your own transition, like, what is, like, starting point, and then what's, like, the end goal. So first part would be, like, just in like a general overview of, like, what a spectrum is as far as gender is concerned for anybody.
Yeah. Well, to a certain extent, I feel like the gender spectrum is what we make it. Because society as a whole just sucks.
Nothing untrue about that.
It sucks. And so it's kind of a way of just, like, be yourself regardless. If you want, like, on Facebook, when there's, like, a mom putting her son in a dress and people are, like, flipping out, and I'm like, let the boy wear a damn dress. Like, he's not gonna be gay because he wore a dress. I promise. He's gonna be gay because he was gay. And so, and I mean, and there's obviously scientific research behind
to prove that.
To prove that. But yeah, it's literally, it's just like, it's what you make it. It's what I feel like. To a certain extent, you can say the gender spectrum is comfortability. Like, it's where anyone feels comfortable. Because I have friends who are just masculine one day and feminine the next. Or are, like, I have a friend who is really eccentric. And, like, you don't know. Like, her style is freaking amazing. But it's, like, you know, it's literally whatever you want to make it. But we have, because of where we are, we have to put a label on everything. And that's kind of where, like, non-binary came in, because non-binary is just saying I don't fit in the binary. So then I kind of think of it as, like, this is like a weird analogy, but this is how it's coming in my head, of, like, the binary is Earth, and then non-binary is, like, just floating in space. Like, you can just go anywhere. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's weird now, but that's just, like, literally what came to my mind.
In the
right
orbit.
now.
Like, you're in the orbit.
But yeah, it's, like, kind of like...
But you're not on...
I kind of feel like when you say you're non-binary, it's like you're saying you're free. You're kind of free of whatever gender structure is put on you. Because also I feel like when people think non-binary, they be like, but you look like a man. And it's like, well, you're missing the purpose.
You're missing the point.
You're missing the entire point.
It's not what I look like to you. It's what I identify.
Exactly. And so, and gender non-conforming is literally just saying you don't conform to any gender roles. And so, yeah, I think defining a gender spectrum is really hard. But for me, or for anybody, it's just literally just finding out who you are, what you're comfortable with, and being you.
Kind of just in existing in that space.
Yeah.
Where you're most comfortable.
Just like people will say, like, sexuality is a spectrum. Like, yeah. But again, we have to define everything. And I think it's hard to say something's a spectrum and then try to define it. Again, because, like, if something's a spectrum, we kind of shouldn't really, I don't know, it's hard to put a definition to it, but...
It makes it kind of seem like, okay, well, there's one end and the other end, and then you have to fall somewhere in between.
Right.
But
then it's like, you think of it as like a timeline. That's how I think of it, like, you know, like little ticks in the timeline. Yeah. Of, like, that's where those labels are. And it's just like, sure, okay. Yeah. It just makes it really difficult.
Yeah. I think I do think that it's a little human of folks to want to labels, and I feel like it's just something because our brains try to, like, wrap our heads. We're trying to wrap our heads around things.
We can't understand it if we can't identify it. Yeah. And people are also uncomfortable with the unknown.
Yeah,
too. I think society makes us have to put a label on it.
Well, absolutely, yeah. And I think we're conditioned to it. So, but I don't think it's so.
Yes, we are, and I think that we need to kind of, like, however somebody else wants to live, that's the way that they want to live. Yeah. Like, I think that, and I've said it before, like, it's kind of like with social media. Like, everyone wants to be, everybody has an opinion. And then with living their life, everybody wants to know the business. Like, everyone wants to know what this label is. Are they gay? Are they whatever? And it shouldn't matter. At the end of the day, they are who they are. Like, it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't stop you. So why do you care so much? Why do you care so much to find that label? Like, to say what?
Just, I'm not, and I'm by no means am I trying to, like, defend it. All I'm saying is that I think people strive to have things make sense to them. And so even if it's at the expense of others, it's like, I want things to make sense to me. So that's why they go through that. Now, there's like levels to it, which is like, I don't care how it affects you. I'm just going to say gay because that's what I understand. And that's what, as opposed to,
that's ignorance.
And that's what I'm saying. There's ignorance. And then there's the people who are like, I'm asking because I'm trying to gain understanding, not because I'm trying to label you, but just because I'm seeking information.
No, definitely.
And I think also what some people need to kind of understand is that you don't have to understand to respect somebody.
100%.
This is very true.
And I think that is where people are losing themselves out here, is because they'll be like, well, I don't understand it, so I just... And it's like, no, respect costs you literally nothing. Costs you nothing. So just respect me, respect my pronouns, and then we'll be fine. We can literally just go on about our day, but there are people who think we're less than, can't be in the military. Like, it's just
dumb.
It's very interesting. And it is like losing your job when people find out that you're trans, or not being able to get a job because you're trans. Trans women of color have the highest unemployment rate in the country. Wow. So it's very it's an uphill battle for sure. And I think that the LGBTQ, like, fight for equality is very separate.
That's what Antonio was saying.
It's very separate. Trans people are excluded for sure. And I always say that there'll never be true equality until people within my own community can accept each other. Like, how are we going to fight amongst each other and then be like, but respect us? Yeah. And it just kind of, it doesn't help the fact, people should respect regardless, but it doesn't help the fact that, and so...
I think that's so crazy to me too. Because, and I apologize for cutting you off. Only because when you think about, like, the fighting within the community, because essentially, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, or like Pride and all that, the movement was like Stonewall,
started by a trans
woman
of color.
Yeah, Martha. Oh God, is it Johnson?
Yes.
Martha Johnson.
I was gonna say, you about to make me look bad.
And no, like I said, listen. No. I was watching. She had there was a documentary.
I know I haven't watched it yet. I need to.
I watched some of it, and so most of it actually. And so I like that, to me, like, blows my mind. Like, a trans woman of color, like, kind of kicked this whole thing off as far as, like, the movement, especially, like, the outward movement. Like, we will not, go quietly into the night type of thing. Yeah. And so that always just kind of blows my mind. However, it doesn't surprise me totally, because then the same thing could be said about persons of color, which is, we've got our own within our own communities as well. So I think that it's like, it's not surprising, but also, you're kind of like, all right, come on, y'all. Like, if we're gonna make the thems of the world, like, respect us, we gotta like respect each other first.
Well, there's a lot of people in the community who are transphobic. Like, there's a group called TERF, which is trans exclusionary radical feminists.
I've heard of that.
Who say trans women are not women. They don't get to be in this fight with us, and it's like, so it's a movement even within our movement of even just trying. It's
a lot. It's messy.
Very messy. It's okay to say it's messy. It's messy.
So, to get to our second part. So, as far as the transition, so where we kind of touched on a little bit, where have you started, and then, like, where do you hope to end up?
Yeah, I've been actually asked that question a lot. Like, what is your end goal? It's probably the first time I've said, I don't know. Okay. I don't know what my end goal is. I'm on a low dose every 2 weeks, so it's not that I can control it, but I can either say I want to go on a higher dose and go every week maybe, or I want to stay here and just kind of keep the changes gradual. But I don't know what the end goal is. The end goal is to be comfortable.
Okay.
To accept myself, to love myself, to, just be able to finally feel like I could comfortably live as myself. But yeah, it's a hard question to answer in a sense, but I know like changes that are going to happen, my voice is going to get deeper. If anybody knows me before and probably is listening to this, you can probably already tell. Facial hair, fat redistribution for my hips, which is supposed to go to my stomach, but I don't need that, so I need to find somewhere else to go. Muscle growth, even weight gain is also a possibility and body hair, all that stuff. Adam's apple actually grows.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So those are like the main ones that everybody would be able to see. Jaw gets sharper.
More defined.
Yeah. So as those things start to happen, I'll be able to figure out where I want to fall, what I want to do. Because it could.
Now
it's kind of like when you get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is I'm not a person that likes that, but
you got to take that.
Would you? Yeah. So I know you said you don't know how far you would go, but have you talked about like fully transitioning? Just to kind of get the like understanding of what goes into it and stuff like that. For you to make a better decision.
One thing is fully transitioning is. What's the word? Up to interpretation.
Okay.
Got it.
So, some person fully transitioning could literally just be changing their pronouns and maybe their name. It could be having top surgery. It could be having top and bottom surgery and going on hormones. I know somebody who's literally not on hormones. They haven't had any surgery. They literally just changed their name. Well, I don't think they changed their name. They just go by like an abbreviated version of their name now.
Okay.
And then change their pronouns, and that's fully transitioning to them.
Okay.
So for me, fully transitioning for me would be I just want top surgery.
Okay.
And that's it. But so it is up to interpretation of that person of what fully transitioning to them would be. But and I mean I've looked into everything. I know people who on VAS. Because even the journey within the trans community are completely different. And so it's kind of just figuring out options, because there's a lot. If I decided I want to have bottom surgery, because not a lot of trans people will talk about it, so I have no issue talking about it. But like you'd have to have a hysterectomy, and then there's like 4 stages, so it's 4 surgeries. So it's a lot. It's a lot to put yourself through. That's not why I don't want it. I just don't. That's not how I identify. It's not what I need. But some trans guys do, and that's what
I've always heard.
That's what happens.
I've always heard too that the transition from female, like as far as sex, female to male, requires a lot. I get almost a lot more than, or maybe I'm wrong, than male to female.
I don't know.
I feel like I could totally be wrong, but just only if you're thinking solely like physical, like just the parts, like what you got going on there. There's like kind of like with male to female, you start with more and get to less kind of thing, versus if you start with less and have to try to get to more. As far as like this is simply the aesthetic.
Yeah, they're both. Even top surgery is it's pretty much like a double mastectomy.
Yeah, exactly. So
and they do nipple grafts, and so
I don't want to sound totally ignorant when I'm saying that. I've heard.
Well, I can't even speak to top surgery yet. I'm just trying to get there. I've had my consultation. I'll be going through Hopkins.
Okay.
There's a lot. I'll probably have to go on short-term disability. I'll need somebody to take care of me 24/7 for probably like 2 weeks.
It's major surgery.
It's
major surgery.
It's not a choice.
No.
But yeah, so, and that's another thing, like, I've tried to be explaining to my family of, like, why I want top surgery, which is also really hard to explain. Because I, like, tried to explain to my mom. I was like, yeah, you know, like, women don't really have the urge to just take their top off when they're walking. She was like, that's not true. And I'm like, you're right. That's a really bad example. So,
just like some love it.
Yeah, I was like, she was like, you don't see the women, European women on New Beach. I'm like, all right, you're right. Bad analogy. But yeah, so it's a lot of it's difficult to explain, but as it comes to me, I kind of talk to the people around me and kind of go from there.
Do you want to change your name?
No, I do not want to change my name.
Still no question.
I'm sorry.
It's crazy.
I do not want to change my name, but I may want to change my gender marker, and that is specifically for my safety.
Okay, so like on your identification.
Yeah.
Like so like on your like driver's license.
Right.
It'll say
Because
male.
anytime I have to take off my driver's license, I'd have to come out.
Okay.
Who wants to do that? The one thing, it would change on everything. Birth certificate, social security, literally everything.
Everything. Wow. Okay.
So literally, someone went and looked. I was born male. Is what it would.
Got it.
So my mom took her aback a little bit when I said I may want to, which should have, honestly, like that. That wouldn't have been a easy thing to hear, but a lot of it is for my safety, because I never know who I'm gonna run into. Like getting pulled over and having to take out my ID now, just as a person of color, is scary.
Yeah.
Then let's add on top that I'm not gonna match
what's in
the gender marker, and necessarily now I won't match what's even the picture that's on my driver's license. So, and the same for my passport. And so traveling abroad is going to be a pain. Going through airport security is going to be a pain. Because I don't know if anybody knows, but every time you go through airport security they actually put in your sex or your gender before you go. So if I walk through and they put in female, say I was wearing a packer or something, it would put it would flag me. Then if I say, okay, put male in, and I still hadn't had top surgery, it would flag my breasts. And so it's like, okay, well, what the fuck do I do?
Got it. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I didn't know that actually until like about a week ago. I saw something on Facebook of actually a very good encounter with somebody had with a TSA agent.
Okay.
And they were very respectful, but I also know many people who have had really, really traumatic experiences with TSA agents. And so I kind of want to avoid it at all costs, mainly for other people, because I'm not nice when I get disrespected, and I don't want to have to put emotional energy into it. But yeah, so that's a thought. I haven't necessarily decided on it yet. So we'll see further down the road.
Okay.
Well, the best thing is you get to make that decision.
Yeah.
It's your life.
Absolutely.
So you can make that decision, and like you said earlier, none of us have to understand it.
Right.
To respect it.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Do what you want.
Let's put it on a shirt.
Yes. So this is a relationship and dating podcast.
Absolutely.
So we've kind of touched on the history of Kayla. And now we've touched a little bit on the dating part of it, but you know, now we're going to kind of dig in real quick.
Yeah.
We can kind of start with college, really, since that was kind of it's a big chunk and more recent. What was dating like for you in college? Like, I mean, you said, you know, Towson there was some kind of representation of every type of person, not every type of person, but people varying on the spectrum, then that was there. But that doesn't always translate into like, oh, the dating pool is wide open. So what was that like for you?
Dating at Towson was college.
Okay,
really.
like college dating.
Yeah, like it was
messy and silly.
Yeah, dated people. It was a thing. Because I don't want to say I identified as gay, because I can be trans and be gay. So sexual orientation doesn't matter. But I identified as a cis person at the time. I guess that's the better way to put it. I identified as a cis person at the time. So there was no shortage.
Yeah. So, did you encounter partners or women at Towson who like were like, I'm gay or I'm bisexual or like, I'm in college and this is a thing.
Experiment. You mean like experiment?
Like a phase.
Yeah. I think
because people like to say that.
One person I dated actually identified as being gay. Everybody else was kind of just like, and then one person was kind of like, I do what I want. I don't care what other people think, but didn't label themselves.
Okay.
Then the rest were, it's college. That happened.
Did that bother you, or did that?
No, weirdly, I'm actually probably still. I'm still friends with him.
I like that. Okay.
We don't talk about it really, but
okay. I mean, and I asked that to say because it's one like sometimes it's very cavalier. So I feel like sometimes, or could be perceived as being kind of like cavalier, be like, oh, it's just a phase, and I'm but I'm out of it. While somebody such as yourself is like going through the motions, like going through it, and it's just like, and you kind of meet at this cross section of like, okay, we're a thing, we're messing around, we're dating, we're whatever, but like you get to like freely move on to your regular like cisgendered life, and I'm still here like in the trenches of like this. Yeah,
I think I only had like 2 serious relationships in college. And I don't think I don't know. I definitely had like really high anxiety back then. Still do. But my gender identity really wasn't a factor then. I was definitely perceived as a dom or stud. I hate the word stud. I can't stand it. I actually don't like the word dom either. Masculine presenting.
Okay.
There we go. Very masculine presenting, definitely. Because that's the thing in the community too, like always has to be somebody who's masculine and feminine, which is stupid, but yeah, so like that, my gender identity didn't really come into play until probably about 2 years ago.
So you were graduated or just about
I
graduated?
graduated in 2016.
Okay, so pretty much post grad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You want to take the next? I know Kayla and I have been having a conversation. No, I'm just playing.
I definitely chimed in.
I'm joking.
But I'm the mean one. I'm the mean one.
Yes.
I feel like it's just shots both ways. It's okay. I'm the same way. So.
I don't take any shots. I've been nothing but positive, and she coming over here shooting. But
sure.
But again,
sure.
She sends her representative, and people are just like, oh my god, her voice sounds so nice. She's an evil person.
What?
Oh man.
See, this is when he goes for the jugular.
I didn't go for the jugular, not at all.
Okay.
What are some of the challenges you face dating now? Or have you faced?
Yeah. Oh no, it's happened already. Well, one is definitely rejection. I was engaged. I'm no longer engaged. My gender identity doesn't have anything to do with it. But I will say the state that my mind was in at the time had something to do with it.
Okay.
Severely depressed, very high anxiety, just wasn't there for a while. And so we kind of just, it just ended. So that's the thing. But I think we're both much happier now, which is good. Hope nothing but the best for her. But since then, it's been a lot of just bracing myself for rejection. That I don't date trans people, or even just telling somebody, because right now, just being I pass as a lesbian woman, and so I have to tell somebody that I'm on T. Well, I don't have to, but
you do.
The person that I am,
you would.
I would tell them. Yeah, like I don't necessarily have to disclose, but I'm an honest person, and honestly, if you want to start off on the right foot, it's kind of just that's just what I do. Some people handle things differently, but luckily though, my first interaction of dating after was actually really positive. I told her it was really weird how supportive she was. I think she was more excited for me for starting T than I think I was. And we're not dating at the moment, but like she's still very, very supportive. She was the person who checked me
Got it.
Yeah, and she's very supportive and very there. But it was weird. It was weird. It was like having somebody there that was really that supportive, who wasn't like a family member or like a really close friend. Like just having somebody, meeting them outright and them being supportive. Literally just, I don't have to explain myself, and literally just being like, yeah. Because I actually went and met up with her the day I found out I was going to go on T. Like I'd scheduled my date. I was like, yeah. I just nonchalantly was like, yeah, and I'm going to be going on T. And she was just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like just got so freaking happy. And I was just like, I don't know. It was just weird. It's unfortunately not the norm.
Yeah. So you were almost like, oh my God, like kind of when's the other shoe gonna drop?
Yeah, like something wrong with you. Yeah, you crazy or something. But yeah, like it ended up, and she's like my rock through a lot now. Her and my best friend, because those are the people I know I can go to without.
I mean, that's dope.
Judgment.
Yeah.
And so it's cool that was like my first experience, and now of course I'm like, my next one's probably gonna be like completely terrible. I'm like not excited, but like that's the fear of dating now, of like meeting somebody and kind of being like, yeah, well this is, and they'd be like, well, I'm not attracted to men, and it's like, but I'm not a guy. Then it's like going through this whole thing of like, okay, well you obviously don't, and it's just like having to explain yourself over and over again is really tiresome and really draining. And I see a lot of these like relationships on Instagram of, a lot of people, a lot of trans men or trans masculine people. And I'm just like, damn, where'd you find these women? Because it's like, it's unfortunately, I feel like it's a, I don't want to, it's not easy. You talk to a lot of trans men and you'll probably hear more rejection stories than you'll.
So
hold on.
Okay.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
On something that you touched on. Is trans the right word?
Yes.
Okay. For trans people, do you believe that they should disclose that they are trans? Because me and Dani have had that conversation before.
Yes,
and like the being dishonest type thing.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
Because so when we had this discussion debate before, I lived on the side of like that a person who is trans should if they so choose to disclose up front, that's their business. But if they so choose to wait until like a little bit further down, then that's their business too. I'm like, because that's their business.
Right.
Whereas I'm on the side that you should kind of like what you said, like be truthful, like that way you're not like necessarily leading somebody on or that way they have the choice. I'm a big believer of giving people the choice. But I understand people have rights and now looking at it and thinking about other things, it's kind of like, does like we have a child together, but like if we broke up and I'm dating, would I disclose that I have a child right away? I might not.
Right.
I may not. We may not go anywhere.
Right.
So now it's kind of like I'm kind of up in the air, but originally I was on the. You should just let them know, so that way you don't put yourself into a situation.
Yeah, I would personally disclose in the beginning more than likely. But it kind of literally, it just all depends on your comfortability. There's a lot of people who don't disclose in the beginning because they worry for their safety. They worry. There are unfortunately stories of where people have disclosed and they've been killed, and
definitely,
or they've been hurt. And so a lot of times that's a fear. Or something, and sometimes people wait to disclose because they're like, I want you to actually get to know who I am as a person, instead of just having that I'm trans in the back of your head and that I'm not what you want, quote unquote, and so that can mess with something. Me, I would disclose in the beginning, and it wouldn't even necessarily be the beginning. It would kind of be like, okay, I could see that we made this conversation will possibly be continuing.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to continue my time, then I will disclose because you're not about to waste my time.
Got it.
And that makes sense. I think more so I'm thinking from the male standpoint.
Right.
And I think that a lot of men are homophobic and
transphobic.
Mm-hmm. So if a man is messing with a trans woman, right, and they like them, but then they find out, they typically become like super violent, and I think that's because of the transphobic, the homophobic. What are people going to think? What is society?
Yeah, a lot of times it has nothing to do. A lot of times people snap. It has nothing. Their attraction does not change to that person. What they feel does not change. It's now everyone is gonna know and gonna think. Like that's a lot of times that's just what it is. And it's like, oh, now am I gay? What am I? It's this whole thing, and it's like, just chill out for a second. Like, just calm down.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too. Like, I think it's ultimately like when we had this conversation, it was just like, oh, because if a person, met a trans woman but didn't know, and then was attracted to her, and I was like, does that make him gay? And I'm like, no. I'm like, because that person is a woman, right? I'm like, and if you're gonna go solely off the aesthetic, they present it as a woman. It wasn't like you know what I mean? Like, it's just like if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck. So that doesn't mean that you are anything, because you went solely off of who you are attracted to, or the type you are. So now we're gonna kind of wrap this sucker up and close it on up, because this has been such an amazing and informative interview with Kayla. But as we talked about and touched on in the beginning when we introduced Kayla, Kayla is a member of a Greek letter organization, such as we. Kayla's an SGRO. You said in fall 14?
Yep.
Okay. So a time where obviously way more, maybe at least progressive than maybe 20 years ago in all of our respective organizations. But still, there's a lot to be said as far as Black Greek letter organizations and the LGBTQ community are concerned. So as far as your experience, if you you can talk maybe like specifically your line, your chapter, your organization as a whole. Like, did you feel accepted? What brought you to SGRO? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I joined SGRO mainly because they were just different. So my dad always explains this. Y'all just different. And I did feel accepted when I first walked in the room. Okay. I didn't feel like I was being judged. But what I kind of found out is that that's local. Because my line, absolutely amazing. My line sister Kat, I remember we were supposed to go to this gala and they were trying to tell me I couldn't wear a suit. And I told my line sister, she's like, well, I guess we just all going in suits then. I was just dope. Like, she's my line sister's amazing, and my chapter is also amazing. They supportive regardless. And surrounding area of the DMV I've gotten nothing but support. Okay. I just think the organization as a whole has a lot of work to do. I think all D9 organizations as a whole has a lot of work to do when it comes to homophobia and transphobia, because it is rampant. There are actually a lot of trans people and members of SGRO who I know, and actually are very successful, like wildly successful. Like someone just where did he get a job at? George Mason as the director of diversity and inclusion or something something like I want them to be a part of my organization. Exactly. Like that is like some bomb shit. Like you are doing your work. Exactly. And it's, just the fact of I've heard stories of people being like at conference being put up on like the what do you call it?
Like the screen?
Yeah. And saying like, don't talk to this person is.
You got it.
And so it's like it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, like now you're just being disrespectful and transphobic and homophobic. I definitely experienced homophobia after, for sure. But I could have completely kind of like either like denounced my letters, which would have been really harsh. Like, that's like, you know. But I do love the organization, and I want to see and be a part of the change. And I'm kind of the person who does that. Like, if I see a problem, I want to be a part of the change. I want to actually change it. I don't usually... There's nothing wrong with walking away if you don't want to do it, because we're not all meant to educate. We're not all meant to be the person who works to change, and that's okay.
Be the mouthpiece.
But that's usually who I am. And so I'm still around because pretty much for that reason. I will be completely honest. I am not financial at the moment, because at the moment I will not give my money to anybody who does not support me.
Okay.
But that's a true work in progress. But I can say for sure, like, the people that I personally interact with in this area are supportive.
That's great.
And have shown nothing but support. And that's honestly, at the end of the day, that's who I interact with. So it just does make me a little sad of, like, just that the rest of the organization's a little behind. But I went to, in college, my senior year, I went to what was it? I think it was just like a leadership conference. And actually had somebody stop me who worked for Grand Basilisk and was like, asked me what my pronouns were and how I identified, and asking me a whole bunch of questions. And they were like, because, you know, she wants to make sure, she knows, like, there are now many people who are becoming a part of the organization, and she wants to make sure that she's educated. And I thought that was amazing.
It is.
And it is, and that's amazing for that being the top person, obviously, in the organization, but it needs to trickle down into the old heads, and to
took the words out of my
grad
mouth.
chapter. And so, like, that gave me hope. But I could not see myself going to, like, Boulé or a regional conference. That would, like, my anxiety would literally skyrocket.
Excuse me. And I don't even blame you. Quite honestly, sometimes just the thought of, like, it being, like, masses of people, like, sometimes I have a little like agoraphobia too, like, of, like, just holy crap, there's a whole lot of people here. And, you know, and then if you and to speak to your, you know, your own experience, that would just be kind of like the beginning of why it could be stressful and having anxiety riddled. And a question I have for you is, and forgive me if it is a little silly, but so you obviously, it was post college when you started to really say, like, okay, I wanted to kind of move towards this, to trans,
right?
Like, or you started recognizing that about yourself. I don't say, like, oh, you're making a decision, like, oh, I'm going to move over here and move like that. Yeah. But if that realization of yourself occurred, and you being 1T occurred while you were still in school, do you feel like, would you have still looked at sororities? Do you think you would have looked at? But do you get what I'm saying a little bit?
Yeah. Because I never ever thought I was going to join a sorority. That was not on the list of things to do when I went to college. Just
kind of happened.
It just happened.
That's what there's a lot of people.
It was something I needed. I wouldn't take it back at all. Like, the people I've met and the people who are in my life now would never take it back. But I probably would not have joined anything.
Okay.
And that's because, like, Towson doesn't really have... There are Greek organizations out for, like, trans-masculine people, trans-feminine people. Yeah. Those exist.
Sometimes they get clowned a little bit because, like, on Greek shenanigans. Not Greek shenanigans, but, like...
No. I don't even a lot of the masculine presenting ones have been on Greek shenanigans, and they could get mad, but they needed to because they look foolish. But yeah, they exist. But also, a lot of times, I need some D9 people to understand that D9 is not the entire world. And the world does not revolve around them. Okay. And sometimes we need to hear that. Because I know people who are actually in D9 organizations and think about, like, even me thinking about it, of, like, people don't take this organization seriously. Like, And it's hard, but then it's like, okay, but I want to be a part of something where people accept me for me.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to like be on guard all the time, and people be around me who have been through what I've been through. And so, but sometimes that's hard when you've also been in a D9 organization where it is ruthless. It can be ruthless, especially if you came through undergrad. Like, politics is a whole thing in Greekdom.
It is, and I like. So like, you know, TJ and I both came through our organizations when we were at Towson too, and I can say like, I don't know. What I will say is this: is that it does not surprise me that your experience on, like you said, like the local level with your line, with your chapter, with like the surrounding was it's like so positive because I feel like just in general, like to kind of go on a Greek tangent is like what I find is that more times than not, that's what brings people to the organization is the people that they see and interact with on a regular basis because it's like, hey, I like you, you like me, we have things in common, I like what you're about. I hope you like what I'm about. I want to join. You know what I mean? As opposed to versus you have those who are like maybe like at first thing that pops in the head is like maybe like legacies who are like my mom was this, my dad was this, so I gotta be this. So it's at the big level because you know because really the national level is the face of the organization that really isn't seen until you become a member. Right. Because and that's like why. So it's important, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's not the draw.
For sure.
In the beginning, and I did want to touch on that because I'm like it doesn't surprise me because that was my own experience, which was like my pro fights were on like I was in BSU, they were on the president and this and I was like okay, like I'm picking up what you're putting down, I like what you're about, and so that's where it came from, and I agree though that there is a lot of work to be done because, you know, we've had, I know I have pro fights who are, I've only known who are out, a few that are out like as gay, but not anybody who, at least that I know of, that is anywhere else on the spectrum or trans or anything like that. But if they were, and like, I know it's like this whole big discussion because it's just like, okay, we're a sorority and versus or you're a fraternity, you know, and it's just like if people are saying that they're trans and they're transitioning to the sex that they don't accept, you know what I mean, like technically like it brings up a whole other thing. But I do ultimately though I am on the same page with you as far as like there needs to be a level of like respect. I think when it comes down to it is like, and maybe this could be like our episode title, is like you don't have to understand it to respect it. And
I mean the there's another side to it too though of like trans men wanting to join fraternities. That I don't know this person personally, but I heard about a trans man who joined Sigma.
Really?
And they found out that they were trans and like lost their crap on them, and pretty much I'm pretty sure they got kicked out. And it's like why? Why?
It is a lot of
that doesn't, you know what I mean? That doesn't. There's no. They are a man, so I don't see a problem. Same thing with trans women. Like now, trans women are now going to be accepted into Spelman.
Oh wow, that's dope.
And that's great because they are women, so they should be able to go to Spelman.
A women's college.
And so, so like those are big steps that are happening, and so, and I understand, and I know that things are going to happen slowly. Like this is coming from a young person. I didn't ever think I was going to see gay marriage legalized in my lifetime. So
true that.
And then when Trump came into office, I was engaged at that time, and like we looked at each other and we were like, we have to go get married right now. Like right now, we need to go this week because we literally, with him becoming president, just saw our opportunity just about to get snatched away in front of our eyes. And so,
which it's still unfortunately.
And he did the same thing with trans people, telling them they can't
be in the military.
Be in the military. He also rolled back the protective bill for trans people in the workplace and in school. Betsy DeVos, whatever, her name don't even deserve to be spoken correctly. But they will now no longer listen to any complaints or cases that come about that are about trans students. And like those are some of the most at-risk students at school.
Period. Period, point blank.
So I've actually had somebody DM me on Instagram who was a teacher and was like, I think the child wanted to go by he, him, and I guess they were born female at birth, and their mother refuses, and so she was kind of like, what do I do? Because she didn't want a problem with the mom, but she also wanted to respect her student at the same time.
Yeah.
And so my suggestion was using they, them pronouns, because then you're kind of like being neutral and you're not disrespecting the parent, but you're also not misgendering the child at the same time. And kind of also just having the conversation, is it okay if I use they, them instead of he, him?
Yeah.
You know, and having that conversation, because just letting, even just the smidge of letting a child know that you care literally could save a kid's life. Like your you know, that's literally...
no, and I haven't had that experience as of yet. I mean, I'm still really early in my career, but that's such a, I hate to say it, like, that's not a far-fetched predicament for someone who is recognizing themselves to be trans, to find themselves in as a teacher, because I would be that way, which is like, I don't want, it's like, I'm going to be a safe space.
Right.
I'm going to be a safe space because that's not only because that's not a job, because that's who I am.
Right.
And I already know what the world looks like out there for them. Or at least have an idea, even though it's not my own story. And it's just like, I'm not going to add to that. But then, you have parents who are like, this is my child, and what I say goes, and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's just like, no, you're just kind of steeped in your ignorance right now.
Right.
And you don't want to accept your kid for who they are. Yeah. So it would be really... I can see it being really difficult because, like you said, like, as a teacher, like, we have to defer to the parent because that's the parent.
You're stuck in the middle. Yeah,
you're stuck in the middle. But at the same time, my responsibility ultimately is to the child, because they're my student. Like, if you're talking about customer service, they're my client.
Right.
And and like one thing I saw, and I had reposted it about how, like, I would absolutely never do this, was how they were trying to push something where, like, teachers would have to, like, basically out their students to their parents and stuff, like, and I will lose my job. And I would say they would ever come up, like, before you're going to tell me that I teach, and I teach middle school. So you're talking about I don't care what's going on in your life. Like, that the brain at 12, 11 to, like, 13-year-olds is just a hot mess, period.
Yeah.
And so you add on top of all that other stuff. And I'm like, you're going to tell me, I got to tell, like, a 12-year-old's mother and father, like, they're coming to me and they're telling me, like, I think I'm gay, or I think that I identify more as a man as a boy than a girl, or vice versa. And I'm supposed to be like, well, let me kind of get your mom on speed dial.
What's
like,
the rationale behind that?
I think I don't even remember. I mean, it's Trump, so it doesn't have to make sense. I want to say it's just because it's almost, I don't know if it has to do with the same way of kind of like how when we, like, if we were to witness, like, abuse, how we are, like, we're like court mandated reporters, with on, like, the flip side, but it's just like we have to, like, bring it to the parents' attention. I really don't even remember what the rationale was for it, but I just know that it's so dangerous, that type of thinking, to say, like, I'm going to out you to your parent who may put you out, who may, like, I mean, that's, and quite honestly, that's the smaller scale, like, it could be worse. There's a lot of fear there.
I just want to know if there was, like,
I can't even really remember.
Rationale behind
I just remember seeing the article and kind of I glossed over, and I was like, absolutely not. Like, if that ever became a thing, you can count on me not to do that, because I'm not going to put, like, it'd be one thing. It's like, I need your help telling my parent, as opposed to, like, you're confiding in me and I had to turn around and call your mother. Like, hell no, like, that's not happening ever.
There's a movie that came out called Love, Simon, and there's a scene in there that I absolutely love. Pretty much Love, Simon, spoiler alert, it's about him having, like, a pen pal, and he doesn't come out. Someone forces him out of the closet because someone, like, found these emails and literally posted them on, like, this website they had and outed him. And there's this scene where the guy who outed him comes up and, like, apologizes, and the Simon gets really mad, and he says to him, like, that wasn't your place. You don't get to out me. That was supposed to be my thing. He literally says that was supposed to be my thing. I was supposed to decide who I come out to, when I come out, where I come out. That was me, and you took that away from me. So that's definitely what advice I would always give, is don't take the opportunity from a kid or from a person to come out, because they haven't come out yet. There's a reason. But all you have to do is make sure that, like, you are creating a comfortable space to where they eventually come to you and come out to you. But literally taking taking somebody's ability to have that moment can be really traumatizing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That could, alter the course of a lot of decisions made there.
Yeah.
From there on out. But
trust issues can come from that. Like, it's...
Absolutely.
'Cause I for sure definitely have them.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, who doesn't? I mean, you add all that into it. It's heightened so much more.
Yeah.
Back with the Greek life, do you fear them, trying to expel you?
They can try.
Okay.
Like, they wouldn't. If they want to spend their good money trying to go through that, then sure, if you really feel. But honestly, if they tried to expel me, I would let them, because they're damn sure not an organization I'd want to be a part of. If you want to go to that extent, right? I don't ever think they would, ever. But if they did, it just kind of like, I'm definitely a person that lives by everything happens for a reason. And sometimes people use that in the positive aspect, but it works in the negative aspect too. Like, that just means maybe that was like a chapter of my life that I got to learn a lot from, got to meet amazing people who still aren't going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
And so you kind of just got to let it ride. But I really don't think that's a lot of energy.
This is true.
But
Well,
I think we're moving more towards acceptance, from what I've seen in almost all the organizations, moving more towards acceptance than to radical.
Yeah, they got to get with the times. I mean, everybody has to get with the times, and one thing, at that, especially at that level, there's a much greater business aspect.
For sure.
To it.
For sure.
And, money is pretty colorblind.
And also, church is really ingrained in a lot of these kind of organizations.
And the principles.
For sure.
Yeah. The same.
Yeah. But interesting enough, SGROs are almost all teachers.
Mm-hmm. That they are.
But just makes it, it blows my mind every time. But,
it's a beautiful thing, the kind of history that all our organizations are steeped in. But then it's also sometimes like we have to, not, I don't want to say move away from it, but it's just like we also have to just be of the times.
Yeah, like grow with the
times.
Sure.
Like, not abandon.
It's a little behind.
Yeah.
A little behind.
Yeah. Not abandon.
Should hopefully catch up.
Yeah. But I mean, you know what? I feel like if there's any Greek organizations, I'm talking about like of all fraternities and sororities that exist, that should do it or would do it, I feel like it should be ours, because we were created to create a space for people because of the same thing. So it's like we got to continue to be in some way, shape, or form that space for people still, and as we come to understand the different variations of people that exist.
Yeah, and I think as the younger people move up, we'll see it change. I feel like
I don't disagree with that at all. Well,
I just say I gotta say it, but I won't say it on here.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say you mean when the old heads die off?
No.
Just like kind of like not nice, but I mean it's just reality. Like that's and I love my old heads. Trust me. Actually, some of them are the most supportive, but some of them aren't.
This is true.
And they're who's holding positions at the moment.
Got it, yeah.
And so it's all about who's holding a position. You know what I mean? Who's got the power to create change.
It is politics, everything. And I mean, not even just with this, but like just in general, there's a lot of politics that go along with it. And
like you said, it's a business.
Yeah. And there's also like organizations aren't beholden to like the same rules as like law, like like the regular world, like you know what I mean. So it's just kind of like it's kind of like their own little microcosm, and so therefore we have to, and so they can kind of like dictate how things go, just based on a vote, kind of thing. But we're gonna wrap things up. So first and foremost, we're gonna thank you so much, Kayla, for this interview. Like, I think you've taught me and TJ things that we definitely didn't know. You've kind of like confirmed things or like clarified things that we were not sure about. Yeah, different perspective, and we really appreciate it, and we know that like our listeners are going to be really into what you have to say, because it's important to hear different perspectives.
Yeah.
And because ultimately when it comes down to it, everybody's had their feelings hurt, their heart broken, they've gone through arguments, relationships, ups and downs, and that's the one thing that like no matter who you are, where you come from, who you love, like you can identify with, because people are people, and people can be amazing, and people can also be trash. So it's always good to feel but to hear that from that perspective. And I hope that your story you continue like open people's eyes and be that voice.
I think it definitely will. I mean, we're seeing like Pose. That's like the first. That's like the first, and they're using trans actors, and so we're moving forward. And I think that's the biggest thing.
The publicity that I was scared when that show first came out. I wasn't sure how the world was gonna take it.
At first, I didn't know it was all like trans actors.
Yeah.
It's somebody I went to high school had a feature on that show. Yeah. I don't know if he I definitely don't think he's like a recurring character, but I went. So do you know the person? He goes by Laith Ashley.
Yes. Who doesn't? Okay. So in the trans community, you do not know who Laith Ashley is.
Oh, so we went to high school together.
Okay.
So
That's a fine looking man.
He is. So he was a year. So I was 05 and he was 06.
Okay.
So, but I definitely like.
Yeah, he was pouring water all over his body.
Okay, I saw like a one little like.
I saw it too, and I was like, is that?
And I was like, I know that person, because it wasn't. It was actually a while ago, like maybe like last 2-3 years, and I like somebody was like, hey. When the show that he was on came out, like it was like about the trans models. So that came out, and I was like, and then somebody I went to high school with was like, you know that's they used his old name.
Yeah,
and
they call it a dead name.
Okay, his dead name.
Yeah.
And so I was like, bitch, no. And then it was like I went and looked, and I kind of
seen pictures of him before. He was like scrawny.
And, like just
because he fit
long hair, just like down. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So and so, but then like when I like looked, and I was like, oh, I'll be damn, like that is him. And so I just thought that was really cool, because I was like, it's the same thing. Like I know somebody who's kind of famous.
Yeah.
Like hey now. Yeah. So. And like, but yeah, so I feel like that show, I haven't watched it yet, but I plan on watching it, and but I will say I noticed that like it got big because of, I mean, I feel like mainly word of mouth, like Twitter, social media is what like really
social media pushed it really hard. Who watches FX? Nobody.
Yeah, I mean,
I did.
I watched FX. I definitely didn't watch FX.
He watched it because he had
Nip Tuck used to be on FX.
Oh yeah, Nip Tuck was on.
I had
FX.
to grab my dad's DirecTV login.
And then FXX has The Simpsons.
Oh yeah, so
does it?
He loves The Simpsons.
But it's like, and what's really cool is Pose goes back to, it's set in the 70s.
I thought it was
or 80s.
I feel like it looked kind of 80s.
Maybe it was 80s, and so it's like the ballroom scene back then, and so it's even showing like what they go through now, and like how, because the ballroom scene still exists.
Yeah. There's a movie out called Kiki.
Yeah.
Watch Paris is Burning. It's an older version.
Okay.
And
I've heard of that.
Paris is Burning. I watched it in a youth group, and I still tell the person till this day that I appreciate them like showing that to me, because like, I mean, that's when you talk about people getting kicked out of their homes, that's where a lot of times where they went, they would find a house, and these people would actually a lot of times house them, feed them, and you see that in the movie, in the show. So, but
got it.
I would like to put a disclaimer out quickly, because it can get political in the trans media as well. So like, what I said here in this podcast is my experience, in my opinion. It is, if you've talked to somebody else and they have said something different, that does not make what they said, that does not make what they said invalid, and does not make what I said invalid. It's just two different experiences, two different opinions. I just feel like a lot of times people can get really political and be like, no, it's not that way, it's this way, and then like people like rip apart your words. It's really irritating. And so I don't think that'll happen, but just it gets very politically correct. And so this is my experience and my opinion and what I have been through, and in no way invalidates anybody else's experience, and no one else's experience will invalidate mine or yours. So it's just insight, and I would encourage everybody to talk to other people and get other insight, because there are many things I don't know yet. And my opinions could change.
This is true.
Because that's why they're called opinions.
Because you still are 23. You're young.
I'm a youngin'.
You are, baby.
I know. Whenever I tell people my age, it just hits them.
I mean, you got a little old.
I would say no one.
Nobody would think that is, but yeah, because 30-year-old Kayla, you're gonna be like, some things you're gonna be like, yeah, I still feel that way, and other things you're gonna be like, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about back then.
Yeah.
But so with that being said, though, we're gonna wrap up with our quarrel. Ding, 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 ding. Fight.
Okay.
I want to do the oldie but goodie. That was my classic. No,
please. Come on, slow into the quarrel. You're doing too much.
It's the eye of the tiger.
That's definitely not the eye of the tiger.
Eye of the tiger.
That's the eye of the tiger. The other thing you was doing was not eye of the tiger at all.
You are a hater, but it's okay. It's in your blood.
So, go to the quarrel. This quarrel was emailed to us by one of our lovers.
Okay.
So, this is something that they said that we should discuss. So, my favorite reading buddy.
Who, me?
Yes.
Let's see. The quarrel.
If you heard that, that was our
it wasn't a
dispenser.
I need one of those.
So I kind of remember what the quarrel was about anyway. So basically, our listener or our lover, excuse me, asked about whether or not there should be, and this is so not a prenup, but in a marriage or companionship, long-term relationship, should there be basically a kind of like contract of like an agreement upon how
certain
things will go, such as like how often you'll have sex, how often will you like cook and clean, how often like
or whatever
the dynamic, whatever the markers are in your relationship.
And then with that, would there be like
consequences?
I don't want to say consequences, but sure.
Like what happens if you violate said contract?
Exactly.
So
does it get renewed?
Do you want to go first? I know my answer.
No, let me hear your answer.
Absolutely. You don't want to answer wrong.
Absolutely not. There should not be no goddamn contract in no relationship because why? I go to work. I sign a contract to be a teacher. I sign a contract for a house. I sign a contract for my credit cards.
Forget what it is that you and your partner agreed upon.
But
that
dynamics
helps you.
But dynamics change.
You're right. Called communication.
And
it is called communication.
And you know what happens? Contracts change too.
Yeah.
You get the re-up and you can make changes to the contract.
Yeah, but they don't change. Contracts are relationships are built on lots of emotion. And contracts are a very business oriented thing. So to put them together, I don't think it's fair because if I don't fulfill, so like we have an agreement that we'll have sex 3 times a week, but then I come down with the flu. Like, is that an addendum?
I think that
is it, or do I have to suck it up and just go through with it?
I think you're taking it too literal.
I am taking it literally. Like, what else is it? Like, it's a communicate. Now, you can communicate about, like, okay, this is what, I've shared responsibilities of, like, household chores and stuff like that. Because
go ahead.
Is something that you can discuss. But to me, like, a contract denotes, like, we're going to put this in writing. Or we're going to, like, be beholden to this. And if you don't do it, then I get to, like, point them out, like, call you out every single time. And I just feel like things happen, like, relationships change over the course of time. People's workloads and the amount that they can take on their plate or not have on their plate, it changes from time to time. So to have somebody like say, yes, I'm going to make dinner 4 times a week, and if I don't, you can whatever, like, or whatnot. I think that's not fair. I think you should talk about it. I think you should.
I think everyone's
share responsibility.
Is different. I think, and when I read it, I was like, it's different, I don't know if I would necessarily do it, but I wouldn't knock it because that may work for somebody. Somebody may need to be able to refer to said contract to be like, well, I did say I would do this, so let me.
But why can't you just get a whiteboard and just write some things down and call it a day?
I mean, so it's I kind of look at it.
My ex did, and
what'd you do? You'd be like,
I didn't listen very well.
But what did you like? What was something that would go on the whiteboard?
like me taking out the trash, or she doing the dishes, or
so like you just split responsibility. Yeah. And I will say so to that point, I've tried that with you before.
Try what?
So when we got this little calendar whiteboard right there,
a little stupid. Go ahead.
Which I update, and I put our
when
events.
When do you update? It's updated now?
Yeah.
I mean, you just had time.
No.
Because last week, before you went on your little Cabo trip, it definitely was July.
Because it was because I left August 1st, so I didn't get a chance to do it. So anyway, point I'm trying to make though is that like so I got that initially right when we first had like, I guess it was on maternity leave, so I had just had our daughter. Mm. And I had put in there, I was like, I put our initials in each day so that we could alternate like bath time.
I don't ever remember
I
that.
swear on Tatum.
All I said was I don't remember that.
So
all right.
I would put like, so Sunday would be me, Monday would be him, right? alternate like the bedtime routine.
Contract.
Bedtime routine. That was to Kayla's point, that could have been like our contract. So but, I put that up there, and you were like, you poo-pooed it. Like because you were like, no, we're going to split the responsibilities. Anyway, we're going to both do it. And then...
Like I said, the contract would not work for us.
Okay.
But it could work for other people. Some people personality is, if it's in the contract, then I have something to look at. I have like, some people need that.
I agree that...
You may not like it, but it's like a prenup. There are some people who are going to sign that prenup, or who's going to have a prenup. It may not be something that we would do, but it's there.
I don't think
there's nothing wrong with having a contract. If a relationship decide that that's what they want to do in their relationship and it works for them, who am I to say it's wrong?
Well, you're not there, but I'm speaking specifically to myself, and I also don't think that it would be the most beneficial agreement between two people, because even with a prenup is before you go into, I guess, the final stages of coupledom, which is marriage. Right. And it's also about, like, you talk about prenups because it's like what you're bringing to the table. Like, I come to the table a millionaire and you come with your, your Dollar Tree job. And we love each other, but we got to set some expectations and boundaries here. Right. So like it's the monetary, I think, side of it. Now, not to say that some prenups don't have things in it about, like, how people... Like, I've heard stories of people having to have, like, weight requirements and stuff. Like, their spouse couldn't exceed a certain weight or whatever. Which I think is dumb, though, because the financial side of it, I can understand, or the business side of it, because it's finite. But how... many times somebody is intimate, or how often somebody does household things or whatever, it should be actively communicated, but does it need to be something that has to have like a hard number to it? I don't think so, because I just feel like it's not finite. I feel like you got times where like when you feeling each other, and times you can't stand each other.
Time I've heard of contracts is in like a poly or open relationship. So like me and my previous partner were poly.
Okay.
And we didn't have a contract. But, like, if you actually look up a lot, that's actually, like, a recommended thing to come up with, like, a contract with boundaries and stuff. And that makes sense, though, because, like, you're, like...
There's more than two people. But that's like, number one.
Because, set boundary, because that's going into what goes into a poly relationship is a whole different conversation. I mean,
and there's a contract in, like, BDSM relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All I'm saying is that if it works for you, I don't see it being an issue. My wife is totally against it.
I think it makes things more complicated, but
I think
it can. But
I think you can
remind people you signed this.
You could communicate.
You signed this contract.
So much.
You can communicate it.
I'll tear it up.
Exactly. It's like we can communicate.
That's when you got to print out copies. And just pull them out.
Flash drives and shit.
You rip one, got another one.
Just keep emailing it.
You signed this one.
I can't.
When you go to bed at night and you look at the TV, it's gonna be the contract letting you know.
You see watch Grey's Anatomy when they signed the Post-it note and she put it above the bed. You put your contract
above the bed. So we can do
above the bed.
So on that, I'm team contract.
No contracts over here.
I mean, it's kind of too late now, but
But don't you already sign a contract when you sign your marriage certificate?
You just sign.
Really.
You sign your marriage certificate. It's not. That is the contract. Like,
or when you say your vows, you're signing it. You're verbally signing a contract.
Exactly.
That you're gonna be married.
Committing to a contract.
You're not saying that.
Your rings.
You're gonna wash
contract.
You're gonna wash this, and you're gonna do that. You're gonna hold your side of the bargain. That's not personal at all.
I'm about to say, because you're giving me there's a lot of tone in that.
I'm just
last
going
statement.
into the topic. That's it.
There's a lot of people who won't get married because they feel like marriage is a contract.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's an agreement. It is an agreement, and I think that's.
But if you want those tax benefits, you better.
And then the consequence is, if you don't hold up to the agreement, you get divorced.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
I don't know. That's like the easy side of thinking of it. Then you start like really thinking into it. I think that's when like the actual physical contract comes.
yeah, I don't see the point, because we can talk about it and it's a contract, but like you said, like there's no, if I break my lease, I have to pay a certain thing or whatever. Right. But like if I were to break the contract that I made with my husband, like
there may be there may be a fee.
we're gonna have a fee, like a $5, like a contract violation, a swear jar.
I mean, you might. All I'm saying is that you're knocking something because it's not normal to you. But if we grew up and a contract was normal in a marriage, you would think it was normal.
I probably would. I just don't like.
That's what I'm saying. Like, don't knock something. You can easily say it's not for me, but don't knock it because.
I'm sure it exists. I
am confident it does too. I'm not knocking it in the sense that like, because I think it's wrong, but I just don't think it would be polyamory, BDSM, that type of stuff. I get it, and I see the need for it, because I feel like there's also these like finite points to those arrangements, but with the inner workings, the day-to-day of a marriage, I feel like communication would be more. But if that is your bag, then that is your business.
There's some people who can't communicate though. There's some people who don't know how to communicate.
Should they be together?
Who need that? So,
or find somebody else who also can't communicate.
On that note, I'm just gonna say that I'm for it.
And I'm against it.
If it works for you, I think that you should have it. Again, it can make things more difficult. It can make you more upset because they signed the contract and they knew they were going to do it anyway. But if it works for you, then, you know.
You like it, I
you
like it, I love it.
You love it, I like it. So.
You like it, I love it.
Nah. You love it, I like it.
Okay. We know who's right on that one, y'all.
Y'all just said the same thing.
Exactly. You just said
but the saying is, if you like it, I love it.
Yeah, all right.
That's the saying.
Nah.
That's...
But why?
On that
this is different. I said if you love it, I like it.
And the saying is, if you like it, I love it.
That's sarcastic. That's why.
No, it's not.
It really is though.
Thank you. This has been another episode.
You're not gonna cut me off. You're not gonna cut me off. If someone says I like it, I like this, and you're like, well, if you like it, I love it. It's kind of just like sure. That's how I'm taking it.
That depends on your tone. If somebody,
your tone was very
for you, yes, right now, hell yeah. But in general, the saying is, if you like it, I'm not evil. If you like it, I love it. Is like, if this floats your boat, I am here for you. It makes it. I don't have to understand it to respect it. That's what it comes down to. That's what that saying is, and that's the episode title. If you like it, I love it. Okay. So
now the title's changed 2 times.
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Between now and
if you love it, I like it. Because I may not love it. I'm gonna like it. I'm gonna appreciate it.
Thank you, Kayla, for being on this episode of Lovers Quarrel.
No problem.
We really, really appreciate.
We definitely do
everything that you brought to us to this episode today. As always, actually, Kayla, if you because you do communicate, you are very vocal. Do you want to provide your social media handle?
Oh, sure. Sadly, I have to look at it.
What? Really? That's a first. I've never seen anyone do that.
I don't use my Instagram. I use my Instagram a lot now, but my Instagram is Life is Music. Literally, Life is Music, but the C is a Q _
like Music Soul Child.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And then my Facebook is Kayla Tullis. If you find me on there, and those are the only 2 things I'm on.
All right. So. Well, we thank you because you know what, everybody, social media is how
people communicate.
Exactly.
Now. Yeah.
And so for us, of course, if you have any questions, quarrels, concerns, anything of the sort that you want us to address, please email us at loversquarrelshow@gmail.com. You know we are on Instagram at loversquarrelshow, and we are on Twitter at loversquarrel7. We thank you guys for rocking and rolling with us, for being patient for that 1 week off because I was on vacation. And
you have a lot of vacations.
Shut up. I deserve, because I have to get them all in the summertime because I educate and mold young minds 10 months out of the year. Thank you. So with that being said, this has been another episode of Lovers Quarrel, and I'm your girl Dani.
I'm your guy TJ.
And as always, we fuss.
We fight.
But we love. Bye.
Later, y'all. Don't look at me like that.